we're talking about a human life here. So this is different than any other procedure that anybody would ever go under because there's somebody else involved in this procedure.
So we've got this law in Texas. There's been a lot of discussion about the law. Now, why was there so much discussion? Because it was, I think, a surprise to the left that as they made their way through the challenges the abortion industry brought against the law, that ultimately they would be able to get an injunction against the law, stop the law from being able to go into force before even getting into the merits of it, but just to say, this law violates the rights that's been upheld by the court. But the Supreme Court didn't do that. What we are hearing this morning now is the Department of Justice is planning to file an additional lawsuit against the state of Texas to stop this law that is now in effect in Texas after Planned Parenthood's initial challenges failed.
Their easy answer to everything is, we'll intervene. Now, can they intervene? They probably have a constitutional or statutory right to intervene in the case. I suppose they do. But the reality is, why are they doing it? They're doing it because they're trying to score political points. Texas, under its own legislative decree, decided a way in which they were going to handle the abortion issue.
It's government overreach of the worst kind. As if Planned Parenthood doesn't have the resources to defend itself, you've got to have the weight and might of the federal government in the form of the Department of Justice coming in and clamping down on the state of Texas, because the state of Texas had the sense and the ingenuity to come up with a law that gave a private cause of action to citizens to bring actions against killers.
The Texas law protects human life. And so how has the Biden administration interpreted the protection of human life? As an attack, as a form of violence. And so they are going after individuals who are attempting to protect human life, something the Biden administration is clearly incapable of doing, given what they've done already in Afghanistan.
So now the FBI has been tasked with going after the pro-life movement. Yet again, it's going after movements that and people who are following the law that the state has enacted that was not enjoined by the Supreme Court.
The court said that opposition to abortion is not discrimination against women. And that's a really important point to make. And I think what's happened here is when you start utilizing, Andy, the resources of the Federal Bureau of Investigation to not just go after extremists, but anybody that's pro-life, including what's going on in the Texas law, this is an abuse of, like the IRS when they were doing their abuse, it's an abuse of the FBI. We've called that out before. Believe me, we will be on top of it, folks. We will be sending, I can tell you now, there will be, if this does happen, we will find out exactly what they're up to, because we will immediately file a Freedom of Information Act request and find out what the Department of Justice FBI is doing against peaceful pro-life protests.
The Biden administration has unleashed or is preparing to unleash the FBI to do what? To go out and basically attack American citizens who are protecting human life. What should the FBI be doing? They should be attempting to prevent terror attacks in the United States.
I think one of the fundamental things that has changed here is the technology, science. It's on our side. It's not on the side of the abortion industry anymore. And that's why they are having a more and more difficult time every time they're bringing a challenge. But that doesn't mean they're not going to be aggressive, and they have political allies in office with power.
I find that abhorrent. Taking the premier law enforcement agency of the United States, as Professor Hutcherson said, who should be looking at things like terrorism, the things that really matter in this country, and using it as a weapon against its own citizenry is an abhorrent act, and one that I disdain.
Congress, they floated the idea, Than, of trying to codify, that means to legislate Roe versus Wade.
I think they see that they're slipping in the courts, that the arguments that they had in defense of Roe really aren't holding up, that states like Texas are finding creative ways to get these cases heard. They may not like the enforcement mechanism. That's what you would have in a post-Roe world. You would have states doing lots of different things to pass restrictions on abortion. It wouldn't be outlawed. It would go back to the states. And the left doesn't like that. So, Jordan, what they're doing to pacify their base is literally throwing everything against the wall.
When you're dealing with abortion, you're dealing with the one unique medical procedure that actually takes another person's life as a consequence of the action. And when you think about that, and then you think about any of the restrictions that a lot of the states have now adopted, you realize that you can't compare this to anything else because it is another person. We call it personhood under the Constitution. And we believe that the unborn child is a person entitled to life, exactly what is set forth in our founding documents. And the idea that you could just terminate that life for no cause at all, which is what, Planned Parenthood, trust me, that's what they want. They want unrestricted rights to abortion at any time, including partial birth abortion where the child's actually delivered, partially delivered. We litigated those. I have deposed those doctors.
On this one issue of abortion, that's why we call it abortion distortion. It doesn't matter if the federal government really has a right of action. The former head of Planned Parenthood doesn't really care about the law because they know that in this issue where if they've won the judge on this issue, they will come up with the reason why. It's not something that, so they don't care if it's a statute or provision. They just want the lawsuit filed by the U.S. government, and that's what your taxpayer dollars are going to do now, is to sue Texas for a law that they've already been successful so far early on in defending in court through the procedural matters.